Mission Impossible Fallout is directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who also made Rogue Nation, and once again stars Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, Rebecca Ferguson, Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames, Henry Cavill, and Angela Bassett, and tells the story of Ethan Hunt's IMF team as they race against time after a mission gone wrong. I've reviewed all the Mission Impossible films in the past, and I've always said that this is one of my favorite action franchises of all time. And except for the second film, which was definitely the weakest, each one of them has been a very impressive action film, and each one of them feels unique and different. And that's because all of them have had different directors. Which is why I was curious to see how Fallout would fare amongst the others, since it is directed by Christopher McQuarrie once again. And I'm very happy to say that Mission Impossible Fallout is here to make all other action movies look like baby movies. I'm just going to get right to the point. Fallout is one of the best action films I have ever seen. Meticulously planned action sequences, not just from a choreography or stunt perspective, but from a cinematography perspective. There are so many beautifully filmed moments. I'm an action movie junkie. I love action films, I always have. That's kind of why I'm more hard on them than others, I think. I expect more out of them. And when it comes to a movie like Fallout, we have a star, like Tom Cruise, who's doing the things that Ethan Hunt is written doing in the script. He's leaping over buildings, he's jumping from airplanes, he's hanging from helicopters, he's motorcycling through oncoming traffic in Paris, and it's the type of thing that a lot of films would utilize CGI, or green screen, or a stunt double with a CGI head over the stunt double's body of the real actor, and here, the action sequences are so intense and white-knuckled because they're actually taking place. I haven't seen an action film that I've enjoyed this much since Mad Max Fury Road. This is probably my favorite of the past few years. It's just a wonderfully executed action film from beginning to end, filled with set pieces that are designed to make your jaw drop, and I've seen a lot, and they're going to, because they did it. There's a helicopter sequence that is so thrilling. I didn't want it to end. I could have watched another half an hour of this sequence. Every single action scene in the film, whether it's a foot chase or a shootout, some big stunt sequence with a helicopter, it's all the best version of that they could have done. The best running foot chase they could have made. The best motorcycle chase they could have made. It's hard to really understand how they could possibly top this, to be honest, and I feel like this film is going to be the action movie to beat for a while. This is the 6th film, and despite the fact that I am a massive fan of the first and the fourth in particular, I think this might be the best. And I've only seen it once. I need to see it again. So the action sequences are incredible, but how is the story? This is where I can see some people having an issue because it is one of those stories similar to the first Mission Impossible where you do have to pay attention to just about every single line of dialogue to follow it. For some people that could be a flaw, and that's fine. For me, I love that. I love a film, especially a summer blockbuster, that treats you with respect, that treats you like an adult and says, hey, pay attention, listen. These lines mean something, these scenes are important. This isn't just mindless entertainment, this is meant to fuel a story. And I like how this film, despite its summer blockbuster trappings, is actually an action film for adults that asks you to think about its plot and pay attention. As far as the antagonists in this film, I would say they're my favorite since Philip Seymour Hoffman in MI3. They're very strong. The Mission Impossible series has had a hard time with villains before, having ones that are serviceable to the plot but not necessarily memorable. This film has some very memorable ones. I loved all the supporting characters as well. Simon Pegg, as usual, is very entertaining. Rebecca Ferguson is terrific. And this is probably the best I've seen Henry Cavill. Speaking of stunt work, he has a fight scene in a bathroom with Tom Cruise and some other guys. That's one of my favorite fight scenes I've ever seen. It's brutal. The punches feel so real. It's fast. It's beautifully filmed with these wide angles. It was just everything that I want an action film to be. I was sitting there constantly in my head saying, thank you. Thank you. You're doing it. Thank you. Dear God, thank you so much. This is exactly what I wanted. If you're a fan of Tom Cruise, this movie has like the ultimate Tom Cruise shot on top of a building. As he's running, the camera is like spinning around him and it ends in this incredible stunt that people in the theater like shouted, "Oh my God!" like, and in unison. It was a beautiful thing. I'm also a big fan of the Mission Impossible scores. I pay attention to those quite a bit. I love what Michael Giacchino did with 3 and 4, and obviously what Danny Elfman did with the first film. Hans Zimmer, strangely, has the weakest score of all of them, although his is not bad. It had a very drum and bass-like feel for the early 2000s, but he had some really great choral arrangements in that soundtrack. But here we have Lorne Balfe taking over work as the composer, and I've listened to the soundtrack over the past day, and I think he did a great job, although it does feel a little conventional in regards to, like, boom sounds every once in a while. It really worked in the film. Fallout could be criticized as having recycled other stories from other films. I mean, there's a nuclear subplot and someone who wants to, you know, obtain things that could possibly end the world, and it's all terrible, and we've seen this many times before. And I would say that's probably the weakest element of the film, is that it doesn't necessarily feel like a story we've not seen before. It doesn't feel particularly fresh, but the directing and the way McQuarrie, who also wrote the film, shifts the characters around and uses this team to build tension in every small way that he can, whether Ving Rhames is trying to defuse something, but he doesn't have enough hands to get the job done and he has to call someone over to him who isn't necessarily familiar with this to help, or Simon Pegg being in a room filled with a bunch of boxes and what he needs is in one of the boxes and he has to search all of them. McQuarrie took the characters and he places them in scenarios that constantly tests their ability to do their job, and that's why it's Mission Impossible. And from a writing perspective, that's brilliant. You're constantly on edge. Every scene is either a turnaround or some sort of twist or a surprise, or you put a character in a scenario where he or she just can't figure it out, or it's an incredible action set piece. Mission Impossible Fallout is everything I could possibly want from an MI movie, and it's one of my favorite action films I've ever seen. I'm going to give it an A. Please see it in IMAX. It's worth it. You're going to get more of an image on the top and the bottom. It's going to be incredible. Please do see this one. I would love to see more MI films, although I don't know how they're going to top this. This is going to be the action film to beat, I think, for a while. Please do check it out, guys. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.